see you checking out the boards. Do you want any advice on the boards?
Actually, I'm looking for a new snowboard, and I had to look at the wall a bit, and that red one is super sick. Can I check that one out,
I'm
please?
going to stop you right there. I know it's got a girl on the board, but it's not necessarily a board for girls.
I think I can make my own decisions here. Can I at least just see the board?
I'll grab it down for you.
This board is so sick.
Okay, before you get too excited, let's just put this back up. I think we've got a more suitable board for you over in this section. Even better, we've got the Danger Pony. I mean, for one, it's pink and it absolutely thrives on the magic carpet and the bunny hills. So yeah, we can even detune the edges for you just to make sure you're definitely not gonna catch an edge. That often happens. Yeah, you know, we can leave the wax on, make sure it goes a little bit slower just to give you some inboard braking. I mean, you've obviously got legs like noodles and you're not that tall, so do you really need an aggressive board?
You ever wander into a shop, something on the wall catches your eye, only to find out it doesn't even come in your size? Perplexed, you head out into the world on a hunt like Goldilocks, looking for the perfect thing. But at this point, you're not even sure if it exists. Well, it's not an uncommon feeling, and truth is, many women in the sport of mountain biking feel the same way. We also want the latest and greatest, flashiest and sexiest bikes out there, dripping with top-of-the-line components. So, what is it about women-specific bikes, and are they really necessary? Can't I just ride my unisex bike? My goal is to learn more about them and find out what the real motive is. To do that, I've reached out to notable folks within the bike industry, and we're gonna find out what their perspective on the topic is. Since I began riding, more and more women-specific brands and bike models have become a staple in the bike world. Honestly, I love all the camaraderie that I've seen as a result in the women's biking field, and I, for one, love the fact that there are finally clothes that fit me and feel good. We can end the era of the soccer socks and the board shorts vibe. But I've got to be honest, I've not spent very much time on any women-specific bikes, but I have spent my fair share of time in the saddle on some huge sufferfests, including anything from lycra-clad cross-country races, try saying that 10 times fast, to multi-day enduro adventures. Honestly though, I've never felt that I would benefit from a bike that was different, a bike that was designed specifically with women in mind, because generally speaking, my unisex bike, it's always just done the trick. Now, as a shorter rider myself, unfortunately, I can't just hop on any old bike and make it work. First up, I'd like to talk directly with one of the women's brands to see what they've got to say on this topic. And maybe they can even enlighten me enough to consider getting one of their bikes in the future.
At Liv, we are just stoked that more women are out there riding. So, for us, we see our brand as just another opportunity to welcome women into the sport. And so we celebrate when other brands do that too.
Now that is Jen Audia, and she's from Liv Cycling Global Marketing. So I'm really excited to see what she's got to say. Liv Cycling, what is a woman's mountain bike, and is it really a thing?
A mountain bike is any bike that a woman rides.
I know that Liv does different bikes to Giant. They're not just Giant carbon copies, cut and pasted, rebranded. So what is it, what are the key differences that y'all take into account when you're creating a brand new bike?
When it comes to frame geometry, we utilize women's data. So, you think of an entire pool of information, including all humans, we're focusing on strictly those that identify as women. So that helps us to create size ranges that are more inclusive to most riders, that are women. Our extra small is also not just this percentage smaller than the small. We create unique sizes, and so that it really helps optimize the ideal geometry for that rider, taking into a lot of considerations. And then from there, oftentimes, especially on our performance level product, we're getting input from our athletes. They're testing the products. They're letting us know, how the geometry feels, or for our carbon bikes, the layup, the stiffness, the compliance, all these factors. And it's not just the geometry. So when it comes to our off-road full suspension bikes, we're also testing and tuning the suspension. So our category manager for off-road, and she also oversees gravel, Ludi, she is working directly with suspension partners to test and tune the suspension so that it's also optimized for that intended bike's usage, but also, the intended rider.
Jen had some really awesome things to say there from Liv, and I'm stoked on what they're providing for women in the bike industry. But have I been swayed? Well, I'm a little bit skeptical still, because how do brands that don't have women-specific bikes like Trek, Commensal, Specialized have such strong women in the game as competitors? Now, speaking of Specialized, I find that one quite interesting because they did used to make women-specific bikes and they don't anymore. So I wonder why that is. Yesterday, I got to catch up with Sam Benedict, who is the global mountain category leader at Specialized, and he also had a lot of good stuff to say.
Why doesn't Specialized make women-specific bikes anymore?
Good question. I think we go the other way and say we do make women's bikes, just not specific. And we've done an ungodly amount of research, asking questions, looking at what the rider's needs are, and that's kind of how our women's specific products started to exist. But as we continued to learn over time and got a lot of data, especially from our good friends at Retool, the more we learned, the more we recognized that a lot of the differences that people find really are not male and female specific. They're more size specific. And we definitely run a very wide range of sizes and continue to see how wide we can go with that, because we want to be as welcoming as we can to as many riders globally. And, there's definitely different size riders depending on where you are in the world. So, I think our rock hoppers are good examples that we use different wheel sizes and different frame sizes to fit, all the way down to an extra, extra small, all the way up to an extra, extra large to welcome as many people into the sport as possible.
With that being said, how much extra thought is put into making a bike that fits, a really tiny person on a double extra small versus a really tall one?
A lot of thought is put into making sure that those geometries are going to work with the suspension, the tires, the center of gravity. We do a lot of research on our ride dynamic side as well as the Retool side to make sure that is going to make sense.
But it's hard to get your suspension working great out of the box, as you could assume. So what do y'all kind of do behind the scenes to make, like you said, the suspension match the geometry, match the bike?
Here's our hypothesis, and can we back it up with data? And then does it work? And actually go out on the trail and try those different things, then ask those questions. So we have test riders as young as 12, and they're not on the payroll. It's not illegal. But, we are asking different size riders and connecting with them and what can we do to serve you? And then go observe them to make sure it actually works.
Do you get requests from some of your elite riders for women's bikes, or do they figure it out?
So our elite riders, what they want? They want the fastest freaking bike they can get. Mm-hmm. It could be for a Martian, that they don't care.
Another brand that did used to make women's specific bikes but no longer does is Trek. Now I've reached out to Ross Russian and Travis Ott, who are going to join on the call today.
Why doesn't Trek make women's specific bikes?
Every bike we make is a women's bike. They're all women's bikes. We offer a large extended size range and to accommodate all people. So we really try to offer the best bike possible, and regardless if that's a male or a female riding it.
How many sizes of bikes does Trek actually offer now?
Extra, extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, XXL. That'd be like a Marlin.
That's 8.
8 sizes. It takes quite a bit to add a frame size because we do have to test each size, and the testing is pretty thorough. So every size has to go through that same validation process.
Do you get requests from female athletes for anything different or a female specific something?
I feel like we get, Travis might have a little more context here. We get requests from them, but I don't know if it's necessarily like a gender thing. It's more of a personalization thing.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. Actually, some of the requests we get, we sponsor a lot of some of the best athletes in the world, right? So like Caroline Buchanan, for her dirt jumper that she's going to use in a lot of the pump track competitions, she wants a longer pump track. If she wants a different geometry, that's probably a little bit longer, a little bit more unique to like what even like a top male would want as well too. Yeah, so I think it's less of a gender thing and more of a top tier athlete thing.
And the nice thing about not having women's bikes, where we would only have maybe like a Fuelie X5, Fuelie X8, that would be the only choice in that extra small. By not having those women's SKUs, we're able to offer that extra small in every model. And so that just gives everybody more choice.
What's your general perception of women's branded bikes?
I think that there was a time and a place for them. I think that the whole women's bike thing it went a long way toward getting more women into cycling in general and mountain biking 10, 15 years ago. I think we've all noticed the increase in women's participation in the sport. I think that women's bikes really did help a ton with that. But then as it's, everything just kind of evolves, the culture evolves, the people evolve, the attitudes evolve. And as women have become more visible and taken up and been just a larger part of the bike industry, we've evolved along with that. And we've learned, we've learned ourselves. We were some of the first people to make women's bikes. And then we learned ourselves and learned that maybe we could serve our customers better by taking a little bit different approach. And it has been really interesting to see all the ways that all the different companies have approached it.
Right. Well, that's a lot to take in, and I actually need a coffee. I've loved having a variety of folks to talk to across the board, and this is basically what I've gathered. There are undoubtedly pros to riding a women-specific bike if that bike fits you the best and it coincides with the cultural aspects that you demand from a bike company. Like inclusivity, opportunities for those in women's sports. That could be through visibility or just having a safe space where everyone feels welcome, and for sure a community that we want to be part of. Other pros that I see are, oh shit, what's this doing here? Brands like Liv that use women's specific data can finer tune their size offerings, which is great because then when you look at things like suspension and controls on the bike, they're taking information from women and putting it directly into the bike that's designed for you. Brands like this are for women and by women, meaning they're taking the data and the responses from not only internally within the company, but also from the highest level of athletes and pumping that into a product just for you. I think these brands go above and beyond when it comes to employing women in the industry and giving them a pedestal to stand on. Anything from demo truck drivers to mechanics out on the World Cup circuit, as well as team managers. By giving females these opportunities, we can then see how strong and capable we are and send it into the next level. And last but absolutely not least, these women-specific brands are really there to inspire others. Whether you're just getting into the sport and you're not sure where you fit in, you can always find a place with these brands in a community that you know you're going to be welcomed in. As with most things, there needs to be some balance. So what about those brands that don't make women-specific bikes? What's the reasoning there? After speaking to brands like Trek and Specialized today, it's actually crazy how many sizes of bikes they make. I mean, usually anything from double extra small to double extra large. So from their perspective, is it really necessary to add another category of bike? I mean, they make all the sizes to fit all the riders and the geometry to match. Another con when it comes to women-specific bikes is, unfortunately, there just aren't a ton of brands out there. So if that's your prerogative when you're going to look for a new bike, then you gotta make sure you're not pigeonholing yourself into just the few small brands available. Find the bike that's gonna work for you. By offering support to all riders out there, these brands are helping to break the mold a bit. That way it's not so odd when you see people like Casey Brown starring in an Anthill bike film and just crushing it, or Yolanda Neff on her unisex Trek Super Caliber standing on top of cross-country Olympic podiums. We're all just riders at the end of the day, aren't we? I truly enjoyed myself today getting to talk to such highly valued and knowledgeable people from a variety of brands, from exclusively women's brands to not at all, and hearing what they've got to say on the topic of women's specific bikes in particular. I learned a lot on that subject today, and I hope you did too. We all have a decision of where we put our hard-earned dollars in the bike industry, and that is a valuable tool. Now, whatever your motive is for making that choice, make sure it works for you. Things to consider are obviously how the bike fits you and how it's going to perform on your local trails. But also, what does that brand do for the local biking community? It's nice to be part of something that makes a difference and supports those around them. Cheers for joining this chat today, and let me know in the comments below what bikes you found that work best for your body and why. Happy International Women's Day. Hope you get to get outside and enjoy the trails. Lycra Clad cross country event, Lycra Crad cross country racing, Lycra Crad cross country Lycra Crad, clad, Lycra, clad. Do people even still say Lycra?